And welcome everyone. And we're going to start with the pledge. Angel, will you please lead us?
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, if we could have a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. President. Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Here.
Division 5, Robert Harris.
Here.
Division 3, Jay Tremblay.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Drew Mercy.
Here.
Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 4, George Lane.
Here.
General Manager Knutson.
Here.
General Counsel Jim Markman.
Here.
And Holly Hughes present.
Now we're moving on to public, comments. Our public roll call. Anybody that might be listening in, and we always like to hear who's with us. And if you'd care to identify yourself, we'd love to hear.
White Fence 3, Jack Cephas.
Hey, Jack, welcome.
Thank you.
Anuka says.
John, welcome.
Sam Small.
Constantino from the Water District.
Good to hear from you.
Ron Child, LA County Waterworks Division.
Welcome.
Ken Stewart, Rosamond Community Service District.
I didn't catch that.
Ken Stewart, Rosamond Community Service.
Welcome. We'll move on to public comments. Anybody's open to address the board now, that if they would like to, and the item's not later on the agenda. Okay, move on to item number 6, adoption of agenda. And a motion would be in order for that.
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move we adopt the agenda, Board Order 6A1.
Motion by Director Paris.
Well, second.
Second by Director Miller. There's no further questions or comments. Madam Secretary.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Harris.
Yes.
Jay Tremblay.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy.
Yes.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Yep. Motion carries. Thank you. We're going to, it's a little different. 7, we got to, we have a special item of the Financing Authority. So we adjourned for this item, then we'll go back into open, and we'll go back in regular session. So a motion to adjourn would be, to this Financing Authority would be in order.
Mr. President, I'll move.
Director Mercy, we have a motion.
Second.
Director Van Dam, we have a second. Madam Secretary.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Harris.
Yes.
Jay Tremblay.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy.
Yes.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. And we'll turn it over to Matt. Matt, will you start off on this item number?
Yeah, thank you, President Lane, and good evening, board members. So this discussion item is for action item 7A1. This is for consideration and possible action on resolution FAR 25-01, and FAR stands for Financing Authority Resolution. So as President Lane mentioned, we're now meeting as the Antelope Valley East Kern Water Agency Financing Authority. It's the same makeup as the Avek board, but we need to consider this resolution that's included in your packet, beginning on page 9 of the packet. And then following the resolution are various documents that we'll hit on briefly this evening that go hand in hand with this resolution. We went through this information with the Finance Committee last Thursday, and I've got a little presentation to give the rest of the board some background and then make sure everybody understands what they're approving this evening. So first slide, little background. If you recall, back in late 2023, Metropolitan Water District requested the AVAC approve utilizing the existing JPA, that's the financing authority of AVAC, that was created in 2016 to issue bonds for the High Desert Water Bank project. The said bond proceeds will be used by Metropolitan for payment back to AVAC towards the capital cost on the High Desert Water Bank project. This process will allow Metropolitan to issue bonds for the capital costs associated with the High Desert Water Bank and keep the debt service payments for those bonds as an operating expense. Metropolitan will be the sole obligor for repayment of the bonds and will be responsible for preparing the legal documents, offering statement, pricing and closing of the bonds, and preparing and posting the annual continuing disclosure associated with those bonds. So as we've been discussing this on and off over the last year and a half or so, there's been numerous questions that have been brought up by the Finance Committee through the process. And I just wanted to point out what I felt were kind of the big three questions and the responses to those questions. First one is, will AVAC and AVAC's financing authority be indemnified? And Jim Markman's on the phone this evening. He spent a lot of time working with Metropolitan's legal and the bond team to ensure that AVAC has all the appropriate indemnifications in the various agreements. So the answer to the question is yes. The final legal documents and offering statement has language that indemnifies AVAC as well as the financing authority. And as I mentioned, Jim Markman has reviewed and recommends accepting the proposed indemnification language. Jim Markman, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, that's correct. It's very carefully inserted. In fact, that one of the indemnity, that's the key indemnity, is in the assignment agreement, whereby all of these obligations find their way ultimately to Metropolitan Water District. And Section 6 of that agreement is a thoroughgoing indemnification that runs about a full page. And I believe it's very, very, it's complete. There's nothing missing from it that you possibly expect. And there are other such provisions sprinkled around, but that is the key indemnification provision.
Thank you, Jim. The next question was, will the approval of these documents and issuance of the bonds have any impact on AVAC's bonding capacity or credit rating? And I believe Director Parrish brought this up last Thursday. The answer is no, because these bonds are backed solely by Metropolitan's revenue and Metropolitan's credit rating. AVAC's bonding capacity and credit rating will not be impacted at all. Third question is, I think Director Dias brought this up, is why is the 2019 water banking agreement amended and restated versus a standalone amendment? So one of the documents that board will be considering with the approval of this resolution is to approve the amended and restated High Desert Water Bank agreement between AVAC and Metropolitan. And this is the original agreement. The original agreement was entered into in 2019, but because we need to incorporate the bond financing mechanism and repayment of that by Metropolitan, as well as incorporate some grant funding that they received from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation that can be used on this project, we thought it'd be cleaner to make sure that all the original terms of the original 2019 agreement stay intact, and the amended portion only covers the bond financing and the grant funding, as well as making sure the term of the agreement goes through the repayment of the bonds. So those were what I thought were some of the key questions that were brought up in those responses. We also have, I should have mentioned earlier, we have Sam Smalls with Metropolitan Water District on the phone. He's the treasury and debt manager for Metropolitan. And so let's see, next slide. these bullets kind of highlight everything that's included in the adoption of resolution FAR-25-01. So it has various documents which are included in your packet related to the issuance and sale of the water bank revenue bonds for the High Desert Water Bank program. It's not to exceed $180 million. Also includes the fourth bullet, the amended and restated banking agreement. As I mentioned earlier, this is to incorporate the bond financing payments, extend the term to match the maturity of the bonds, and include a provision utilizing the $82 million in grant funding that Met received from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. And there's a few other documents listed there. So at this time, I think that's end of my slides, and staff as well as legal counsel recommends approval of this resolution.
You know, thank you, Matt. Good job. Needless to say, based upon some past experiences, you know, we've all been a little gun shy concerning CB communities and the Acton. You know, we've looked at it, you know, fairly close with the Finance Committee has with the legal counsel. We've had 2 recent meetings and with Wells Fargo plus, you know, meetings some time ago. But the Finance Committee will turn it over to Keith with his recommendation. But, you know, Keith and Rob are both on that. Keith, did you have any comments on this?
Oh gosh.
Director.
Outstanding comments.
Keith, we're not getting reception, Keith. I don't.
Director Dias, we can't hear you very well. Are you able to use your phone, maybe, and not your iPad?
Keith, can you?
Okay, what I was trying to say is that I have no outstanding questions regarding the issue. We did discuss it thoroughly in the Finance Committee meeting, and all of my concerns were addressed. So I recommend we approve the board order.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Parrish, you have any comments?
No, I think it covered very well, and I'm supportive of our motion.
Yeah, I think everybody associated with it did a good job right there. So if there's no further, Madam Secretary, we do not need we're going to need a motion on this item at this point.
Yes, we do need a motion and a second to vote on resolution FAR-25-01.
Okay, a motion would be in order.
Mr. President, so moved.
Director Mercy?
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Mercy. We have a second. Yeah, we have a second. Motion and a second. If there's no further questions or comments, Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Jay Tremblay,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Well, I'm glad that's behind us.
Yeah, and we do, just so you know, we do have one additional resolution that we need to approve once we go back to the AVAC board meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
It's my understanding we do not need a motion to go back.
No.
Okay. Okay, we'll
Reconvene.
come back.
We're ready to move on to item 8.
Number 8, consent calendar, action items. We have three items. 1 of the minutes and 2 LAFCO. Regarding LAFCO, which we really can't do anything about. So a motion would be in order for our consent calendar.
Mr. President, did we correctly go back into open session? I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah, we're back in open session. So item number 8, a motion would be in order.
I'll move on A1.
Director Miller.
Second.
Second by Director Van Dam. Madam Secretary?
For the consent calendar, Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Jay Tremblay,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, motion carried. Hey, thank you. Now I think we're gonna get back to that item you spoke of right there.
Yes.
Okay, the finance committee, and we'll go back to Director Dias.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met last week and discussed this item. We are now being requested to approve a similar, if not identical, board order as the AVEC board instead of the Financing Authority. But I'll ask General Manager Knudsen if there are any distinctions.
Thank you, Director Dias. And yes, you are correct. It's identical to the previous resolution, only this is for the AVAC board to adopt, and it's resolution number R25-15. It'd be the same documents that we previously mentioned as far as the that were attached to the Financing Authority resolution.
In that case, if this is the proper time, I'll make a motion we approve resolution R25-15 as the AVEC board.
Okay, do we have a second?
Mr. President, I'll second.
A second by Director Miller. Is there any further questions or comments? If none, Madam Secretary, we have a roll call.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Jay Tremblay,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, motion carried.
All right.
I hope a couple of years from now, we're not sitting here, gee, I wish we would have known.
Yeah, I think we're in good shape.
I think so.
And I just wanted to recognize Sam Smalls, who is on the phone this evening from Metropolitan Water District. He and his team have been a pleasure working with through this process, so we appreciate all his support.
Matt, I was going to say the same thing about you and your team. And I wanted to thank the board personally for your support. This means a lot to us. I think that this is a great project, and this just is helping further the collective efforts that we have pursued in getting this going. So thank you again, and look forward to getting the transaction completed. We anticipate getting our ratings later this week or early next week, so that we can go to market at the end of the month. But everything is looking good so far. So thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Director Dias.
Yes, thank you. The Finance Committee also discussed consideration and possible action to accept and file the check register list for the period of May 15th, 2025 through May 28th, 2025. And I think General Manager Knudsen will lead us through this.
All right. Thank you again, Director Dias. So begin on page 357 of your packet is the checklist for this period of March 15th through May 28th, or May 15th through May 28th. Begin on first page, item number 1, you can see a payment to Department of Water Resources for about 1.03 million. This is for the variable costs associated with moving about 5,400 acre feet during the month of April through the State Water Project. Most of that water was banked at the Westside Water Bank, but some of it was used directly through our water treatment facilities. If you go a little bit down towards the bottom, item number 18, payment of a little over $100,000 to APCO. This is the firm that's working on the SCADA system replacement at the various facilities. And this is for work associated with the Eastside Water Treatment Plant SCADA system upgrade. On the next page, you can see items 22 and 23 are chemical payments for chemical supplies to our various treatment plant facilities. I think those are kind of the highlights of this pay period. was a check run. But obviously, we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we've got a few more if there's any, comments, but just wants a little more time to look at them, that's okay, but absent that, the motion would be in order.
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move approval of Board Order 982 to accept and file our check register list.
We have a motion by Director Paris,
I'll second.
a second by Director Miller. If there's no further questions or comments, Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Ferris,
Yes.
Jay Tremblay,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you much.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the next item that the Finance Committee reviewed, 9A3, consideration and possible action to approve chemical supply contracts for fiscal year 2025 and 2026. Matt, who will be presenting this one?
This is going to be our operations manager, John Bozigan.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Good evening, everybody. So we do this annually. We have to go out to bid for our pre-treatment chemicals, aluminum sulfate for coagulation, sodium hypochlorite for disinfection, and zinc orthophosphate for corrosion control. It just so happens that every 5 years we go out for liquid oxygen, which is what we use to generate ozone, and carbon dioxide only at Quartz Hill, which we use to lower the pH of the raw water. So it kind of worked out where we're doing them both this year. We put out requests for proposals to about 20 different chemical companies. Some are small, some are pretty big. We try to include everybody. And we did get some responses, some pretty good responses, not as many as we had hoped. And the spreadsheet kind of shows how that all played out. Starting with aluminum sulfate, Eco Services has had that contract for probably the last 5 or 6 years. This year, Thatcher Chemicals was a low bid. We have had them before for aluminum sulfate. They did perform very well. Their proposal for it will be an annual fee for this fiscal year of $892,584. And they priced their chemical at $528 a dry ton. That's how they price it. Sodium hypochlorite, JCI Jones has had it for probably 6 or 7 years. They were again the low bid at $190 a gallon, and that would be $391,400 per year. Orthophosphate, Thatcher has had that for the last few years. They also were the low bid again this year, so they'll be supplying zinc orthophosphate and aluminum sulfate to the agency. They were $108 a pound, and that will be about $347,330 annually. Then we get to liquid oxygen. There were really only 2 bids on that. It's a very specialized market. There's probably only about 4 companies that supply this. We've been with Air Gas for the last 5 years, and they were the low bid. So we'll stick with Air Gas. They price it per product, the gas itself, but also we rent the equipment, those big vertical tanks, the evaporators, that's all rented. And their rental fee is included in this price. It'd be $315,850 a year. Their rental price is $40,800 for all the liquid oxygen equipment at all the sites. We priced, when we first started doing liquid oxygen, we priced buying the tanks ourselves, and it just didn't make sense to purchase, $1 million worth of equipment when you have to upgrade it every once in a while. And so we just let them handle that headache. But so we're going to go with Air Gas. And the last one would be carbon dioxide at the Quartz Hill plant. And Air Gas did get that one, $40,632 annually. And that does include also the rental price on the tank and the evaporator and the rest of the equipment. So our total estimated chemical costs for this fiscal year is $1,987,000. So we're asking the board to support a budget of $2 million for all treatment chemicals for this fiscal year. Be happy to answer any questions.
Another question. Is this yearly or for 5 year?
The liquid chemicals, the 3 liquid chemicals are annually. The gases, CO2 and liquid oxygen, are for 5 years. Because if you price it every year and you have to have a company come in and take their stuff out and bring it in, it doesn't pencil out. So that's a 5-year contract.
Are all these guys companies local? Or are they?
Well, local. They're in the United States.
That's local.
Yeah, I think a lot of the chemical comes out of Henderson, Nevada. I think the gas does come from, down Carson, somewhere down there. But the liquid chemicals come, I believe, from most of us from Henderson.
Is our usage up on this chemical, or
well,
where are we at?
Where the price, we were at one point. I think our budget last year was $1.8 million. We plan on treating more water this year, and more state water, which means when you're using groundwater, you use a lot of hypochlorite, but really no alum, aluminum sulfate, and not much zinc orthophosphate. So planning on treating more state project water this year. So the overall price is going to go up, budgetary. Price of the chemicals, surprisingly, the hypochlorite went down and the orthophosphate went up almost 5%. Liquid alum went up 1.5%. And that's mainly raw materials. They go up. The board, I will add, the board did ask a couple years ago what happens if in the middle of a contract, a supplier says, hey, we have to raise the price, because they can't control raw materials. So we require them to provide proof of why they're raising it. Show us the increase in raw materials, justify why you're raising the price, then we can review that.
Thank you, John.
And a question, Matt. We have the 5 suppliers recommended by our operations manager on the page, on the next page, in the prices. In this motion, should it include the $2 million or not? I see nothing wrong with it. As long as
nothing wrong with it. That'll just we'll have another bite at the apple, because when we approve our operating budget next month, it will include this $2 million.
Yeah.
So
this motion, would it be the suppliers and the $2 million, or $2 million would come later?
$2 million can come later as part of the budget. So our focus tonight is awarding the contract to these suppliers.
Okay, Dr. Dias, do you have any comments, Chairman?
I strongly support the recommendation to make these purchases.
Dr. Paris?
Me too.
Okay, we have the 5 suppliers that recommended by our operations manager, and I don't think there's any more questions. So, motion would be in order.
Also move. This is Keith.
Mr. President, this is Rob. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, Dr. Dias and Dr. Paris. If there's no further questions or comments, Madam Secretary.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Jay Tremblay,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you much, John.
Thank you, John.
And that will conclude the Finance Committee report, Mr. President.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dias. And that'll move us on to item number B, Alabama State Water Contractors. And Dr. Dias is chairman of that committee, so turn it back to you. Yeah, Keith, are you?
I'm sorry. I was muted.
Next, the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors. Turn it back
Yes.
to you.
Yes, thank you. First item we discussed was consideration and possible action on selection of a consultant for preparation of Avek's 2025 Urban Water Management Plan update. And I believe our Assistant General Manager Thompson will make a presentation for us.
All right. Thank you, Director Dias. Good evening, Board. So we did meet with the Planning Committee and we discussed a proposal to prepare the Urban Water Management Plan. So just a quick background on that plan. It's required every 5 years. And DWR oversees those plans. In fact, they develop a new guidebook for those plans every 5 years, and they're in the process right now. It is important for, from a regulatory standpoint, that we get it correct. So we have to make sure that we follow those guidebook. But we also want to make sure that it's a tool that AVEC can lean on in the future from a demand planning and a supply planning perspective. So this will support long-term supply and drought planning, and it's going to provide a framework for conservation and drought response. And there's a water shortage contingency plan that's a piece of this, and we'll have to make sure it follows the regulatory guidelines, but also is reasonable for AVEC in the midst of a drought and mirrors our actual supply and ability to meet demands in a drought scenario. So that'll be an important piece of that. It also is a prerequisite for getting certain loans and grants through the state. Go ahead and move on to the next slide. And so we did send out an RFP and we received a total of 5 proposals, and they were all very similar in price. So staff went through. We used a kind of a strainer when we looked at these proposals. We wanted to make sure, in order to meet regulatory compliance and also provide a good document for AVEC, we wanted a consultant that had good track record of delivering urban water management plans in the past, experience with similar agencies to AVEC, like wholesalers that take water off of the State Water Project. We also were looking for some demonstrated knowledge of AVEC's assets from a facility standpoint and from a supply side standpoint, so that they knew what we had going into it and were able to effectively make a plan well for AVEC. We're also looking for a firm that had spent time with DWR in the guidebook planning process. And so when we sifted through all of that, WSC came out on top. And you can see that it's very close in price to many of the others there. So a total of $79,195. Let's see, Holly, do we have one more slide? Yeah. So I did go over some of those key strengths for Water Systems Consulting. They did provide the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan. They do have that experience with similar contractors and wholesalers. They showed a very, very good understanding of our banking projects, the way we move water through our system, and that was very clear in their proposal. They understood the local water demands and supplies, and they also were aware of the more recent delivery capability report and the need to incorporate those findings from DWR within the Urban Water Management Plan for compliance. And we felt like that was relevant. So it's staff's recommendation, and we did receive the recommendation from the Planning Committee to move forward with accepting the proposal from Water Systems Consulting. But we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Is there any questions from the board?
So are there other water agencies then that they've done this project for in the past?
Yes. So outside of AVEC, they also did San Bernardino Valley, which is another state water contractor. Western Municipal Water District as well. And they have a long list of other, I think they did 46 urban plans during the last cycle. So several other water agencies.
Did we check with any of them to see if they liked their report?
Well,
or their plan?
because they did ours last time, and
they did ours.
They did ours last time. We staff felt pretty comfortable that they would perform well, and it's the same lead on this as last time. It's also my understanding that they did a very good job of articulating the information to the board during their presentations on the urban water management plan. So.
Thank you.
Was this a selection process or a bid process?
Selection process. Selection. So this professional services, so it doesn't fall under the public contracting code requirements.
It felt like to me during the presentation that we're trying to justify the selection. And so maybe that's okay, maybe it's not. But can this be something to be done? Just different water agencies in Antelope Valley, like Courtsville Water Agency, are they required to do the same thing?
Yeah, any water agency that serves over 3,000 acre feet or 3,000 connections has to prepare urban plans such as this. And in the valley, that probably includes obviously LA County Waterworks, Palmdale Water District, Courtsville Water District, Roseman Community Services District, California City.
Could there ever be a sharing of this cost, or are there too many differences? One report couldn't.
Yeah, I think I don't know the specifics of it, but I heard years ago AVAC tried to do just that with the retail agencies, and there was a lot of difficulties with everybody's water supply and how they operate their system. So
Okay.
That's a good question, though.
Yeah, it appears this company probably will qualify, but how do we know it wouldn't be half of that with another company? That's my question. So I think when we look at it again, we need to talk to the board and see how they would like to proceed.
Okay.
It looked like everything was to justify this company.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any further questions or comments for the board? Okay, do we have a motion?
President, this is Drew. I'll motion.
9B1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. There's no further.
One question, before we vote. In their past plan, was there anything that came up that was questionable or whatnot, or?
I'll defer to Matt on that one.
Nothing questionable. No, they checked all the boxes. When it got submitted to DWR, it was accepted the first time it went through review. So nothing came back from DWR that we needed to tweak or add. So
there's no way to doubt them or anything.
No, they've done it before. Like Peter said, it's essentially the same folks that worked on our previous plan that would be working on this plan. And I recall that they did a really good job explaining the plan and the process and the contents of the plan to the board when they presented 5 years ago.
And 5 years ago was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Okay, real good.
All right.
I'll call for the question.
Okay, thank you, Bennett. Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Jay Tremblay,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
We have one additional item 9B2.
Yes, the next item we discussed was possible action on selection of a managed information technology service provider, and I believe engineering manager Levasseur will make a presentation for us.
Yes, thank you, Director Dias. Good evening, President Lane, members of the board. Brief presentation here. Just thought I'd start with some background. So, back in kind of 2017 timeframe, I think there was a discussion about bringing on an IT professional to handle all of AVEC's IT infrastructure and environment. It was decided at that time it'd probably be more prudent to hire a team of experts that has a wealth of knowledge, expertise across the board, and kind of get more bang for our buck there. So we elected to hire a company known as SADA Systems as our managed services provider back in 2018. So this firm has been handling our networking infrastructure, all of our computer troubleshooting, et cetera, since that time. The company SADA was acquired by a larger company, Core BTS, in 2019. And they did retain initially some of the local staff that was supporting us. Since that time, some of those key staff members have moved on to other roles within Core BTS or left the company altogether. We had a gentleman that was coming on site supporting staff at that time under the original contract. That went away around COVID time, and it was never reinstated. We've had some difficulties over the last couple of years with Core BTS not being as responsive as we would prefer, and really not, thinking about Avek more frequently than, oh, there's a problem, let's fix it. So we thought it was prudent, especially also being since it had been 7 years, to do an RFP to look at what other firms might be out there and what costs might be today. So we developed a request for proposal, which we circulated back in November. We had 7 firms respond to that proposal initially. After reviewing the proposals, we shortlisted that down to 4 firms that we asked to come in and meet in person. So we did that back in April. We toured them around this facility, gave them an overview on GIS of where all of our remote facilities are as well. And let them get to know us a little bit better, and for us to know them and their staff that'll actually be supporting us a little bit better. After that meeting, they all submitted kind of best and final revised proposals. Within that proposal, you can see a bullet list of certain items that we wanted to ensure were covered. We wanted local support, somebody that was here. Once SADA transitioned to Core BTS, they're a national firm. Everyone that supports us is back in the Midwest or East Coast. So it caused some difficulties. They didn't really know who we are or exactly what we do. We obviously wanted 100% US-based technical support, constant monitoring of our network and server, workstation support available during our normal business and working hours, so that whenever staff are here, they can pick up the phone and get a hold of somebody. And then rapid response times and review of our existing infrastructure for recommendations for improvement. Kind of along those lines, we asked them that part of their onboarding process be, once they're familiar with us, helping us develop kind of a 5-year IT roadmap. So really, we want them to be an extension of Avek staff in making recommendations for us and keeping us up to speed with the ever-changing IT landscape. As you know, we don't have any IT personnel on staff that have any background in it. So getting into a quick comparison of the proposals, these are the 4 that were shortlisted. You've got the firm names on the left, a brief note about their locations in the middle, and then their monthly fee on the right. And for perspective, our current contract with Core BTS is $4,500 per month, and we've been paying that since we originally signed on with SADA Systems back in 2018. So you can see we have a couple of proposals higher than that, a couple of proposals lower. Core BTS, they've been recently acquired actually by another larger firm, NRI, who is headquartered in Japan. And their plan for local support was to contract with another IT company. We weren't thrilled with that, and plus their fee has gone up quite a bit since what we're currently paying them. So it really boiled down to the bottom 2, Circle and Visual Edge. Both are very well qualified. Circle is 100% out of Irvine, except they have a emergency kind of overnight, they call it a NOC, Network Operations Center, that supports them from Texas. And then we have Visual Edge, who's headquartered in Ohio, but they have a lot of satellite, small local support offices. So the closest one that would be supporting us is in Victorville. They also have staff out of Redlands and Menifee. So those would be our local folks, the ones that actually come in here once a month and talk to us and know more about us. But they also have the larger resources of a nationwide company. So you can see their fee there is $38.88 and was the lowest of the 4. So that would be our recommendation. We did call the references for Visual Edge. We spoke with 3 references from the local area kind of around here. You see Apple Valley, Ontario, and La Quinta. They all said very good things about Visual Edge and would highly recommend them. Common amongst those were that they like the resources of a larger company, but they've got a personal relationship with those folks that are in the offices nearby. They are a large company. There's some facts about them there. They were founded in 2000. They've got about 1,000 employees nationwide. We feel confident that they're going to be around for a long time and are a good company that will be able to support us long term if we decide to stick with them. So if there aren't any other questions, staff's recommendation as well as that of the planning committee would be to authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with Visual Edge for our managed IT services going forward.
Okay, is there any questions or comments from the board? If not, a motion would be in order.
This is Keith. I'll make a motion that we authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with Visual Edge for the agency's managed IT services.
Okay, do we vote a second?
I'll second. I'll make it a second.
James, do a second. Okay, there's no further questions or comments, Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Jay Tremblay,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Yeah, Justin, you did a very good job and you did it the correct way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job, Justin.
And that will conclude the committee report, Mr. President.
Okay, yeah, thank you much, Director Dias. Okay, that brings us down to item number 10, General Manager's report. Matt, we'll turn that over to you.
All right. Thank you, President Lane. So, quick update on current flows. They're starting to creep up with the warmer weather and demand of our customers. So, top left chart shows the various treatment plant facilities and what their current flows are versus what the rated flow or the max flow that we could flow through these facilities. So, quart sales now at 27 million gallons a day. Eastside Water Treatment Plant's at 3.5 million gallons per day, and Acton via Palmdale Water District is 1.7 million gallons per day. Bottom left shows what we're currently pumping out of the water banking facilities or our stored water. You can see a little bit of water is being pumped out of the Westside Water Bank. Most of that is going north to serve the North Feeder customers like Edwards Air Force Base, Mojave, etc. And then we're flowing a little bit from Bench Ranch wells located at 80th Street West and Avenue H, about 1.7 million gallons per day there. The top right shows our banking activity, what we're delivering from the State Water Project to our various banking locations. You can see West Side, we've cranked that up from about 100 acre feet per day to just under 200 acre feet per day. So quite a bit of water flowing out there. It's a great project and takes a lot of water, so we like it. Eastside Water Bank, we're still banking a little bit out there, only a few acre feet per day. And then Upper Amargosa.
What was it? We're banking just a little bit now?
Yeah, at Eastside. 3 million or 3 acre feet per day, and then Upper Amargosa is about 1.8 acre feet per day. Let's see.
Upper Amargosa, do we have any efficient way of removing that? We don't, do we?
We don't. And if you remember, every year we provide water to the basin to satisfy replacement water obligations, and that project is good to supply that because it puts the water into the central basin where a lot of the pumping occurs, and because, like President Lane mentioned, we don't have any wells associated with the Upper Amargosa recharge project, so it works out pretty good. Just a few project updates. I know we've been talking about the first bullet there, the West Feeder pipe inspection and assessment. We are getting very close to receiving that report. All the field work has been done. Preliminary results show that the pipeline is in pretty good shape, but we'll wait for that final report, and then we'll give a full presentation to the board once we get that. We've talked about the steel mill out in Mojave that's being constructed, and the board previously approved an agreement with the steel mill for a new turnout on AVAC's central feeder. So that connection's been made. They completed the boring underneath the railroad, and there's a temporary meter set so they can utilize AVAC's water to meet their construction water needs. And then over the next 6 months or so, they're going to work on the permanent turnout and building for the meter and control valves. So that project's moving along. The old administration building roof replacement, if you remember, the board awarded that contract, and they're scheduled to start construction tomorrow, actually. So you'll see some activity out there. That's going to take approximately 2 months to complete. Last project is LA County Waterworks is constructing a new turnout with AVAC. This is on 25th Street West, just north of Rancho Vista Boulevard. So they're going to connect to AVAC's South Feeder parallel. They're going to extend that pipeline down 25th Street West to the new turnout. And they're also constructing a new pump station that will be owned and operated by LA County Waterworks. And this is all in support of the new Ritter Ranch development in Palmdale. So all the costs associated with AVAC's improvements, including the pipeline and the new metering vault or metering connection, is going to be borne by the the developer for Ritter Ranch. And so AVAC will oversee that construction and inspect it to ensure that it's per AVAC standards and specifications. So those are just a few updates on the projects. This chart shows our budget schedule for fiscal year 25-26. We're slowly crossing off items as they make their way through the various committees. This month we'll be active with the Water Projects Committee and Finance Committee, as well as the Water Rates Committee. And our hope is to approve the final budget sometime in July after we get all the information from DWR that we need for the budget. This slide shows some upcoming events and schedule. We have the Antelope Valley State Water Contractor Commissioner meeting here at AVAC on Thursday, June 12th at 6 p.m. That's this week. I am going to take a couple days off, so I'll be on vacation starting at noon tomorrow through Friday. Peter and the rest of management staff will be here if anything comes up, or you can reach me on my cell phone. We have the Antelope Valley Water Master Advisory Committee on Wednesday, the 18th, on Zoom or at Quartz Hill. Just a note, it is at a special time. It's starting an hour earlier. It's at 9 a.m. versus 10 a.m. So just take note of that if you plan on calling in. We got the Special District Association of Northern LA County. Their meeting is scheduled for the 18th, the same day at 11:30 a.m., and that's in Palmdale. We have the monthly Water Master meeting on the 25th at 10 a.m. And just a reminder, I think many of you want to attend the meeting with Congressman Whitesides, who's coming to AVAC for a briefing. That's on July 1st. It's Thursday at 11:30 a.m. And because we have a quorum of the board that's interested in meeting with him, we're going to have a special meeting to have that briefing.
Tuesday, 1st of July, right?
Yeah, Tuesday.
And it's at 11:30. I thought I got some email that said 8:30 or something.
Yeah, we can double check that, but I believe it's confirmed at 11:30. And that's all I have to report unless you have any questions.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Is that Pacific Steel map that's coming into Mojave?
Yep, it is. They're going to make manufacture rebar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that pioneer group out of Texas that was supposed to put that?
Inland Port. Is that?
Is that a no-go?
I don't know. We haven't heard much on that lately. I mean, every once in a while you hear an article or a report on it. Drew, have you heard anything through AV Edge?
The folks I've talked to or heard from up in Kern County said I mean, it's a great idea, but it just hasn't taken off. The folks that are looking to build an inland port in California they said they're leaning towards some spots up further north in the Central Valley.
Oh, okay.
They've got a port.
Yeah.
I thought they
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to go into that golden mussel at all? On what's going on there with?
We can put that on the next agenda and maybe have Manny with state water contractors give an update.
Yeah, something the board should probably know about.
Yeah.
Since there's a bunch of fungus and nematodes coming across the border.
Yeah. Just for everybody's knowledge, Director Van Dam's mentioning the new. What mussel is it? The golden mussel. That's right. That's being detected within the State Water Project and the Delta. And at the last State Water Project Committee of AVAC, we had a presentation by Manny, who works for the State Water Contractors, and it was very informative. And Peter, maybe we can reach out to Manny and have him present to the full board.
Will do.
He did a good job.
Yeah, he did a good job. He does a great job with that crew.
Something definitely we want to pay attention to.
Yeah.
It's not going to go away, and as you all know, it's going to be very costly.
Yeah.
To the board, or actually to the state of California.
Yeah, and I saw recently some support letters floating around from the state water contractors to various legislators to kind of make sure it's on their radar and there's appropriate funding towards the detection and elimination of the golden mussel.
That would be something we want to talk to Whiteside about.
It's probably more of a state issue than a federal, but doesn't hurt to make sure he's aware of it as well. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Matt, I had one question regarding that turnout for the Ritter Ranch.
Yeah.
Years ago, when AVAC was asked to put in a pipeline for supplemental water for the Ritter Ranch, it was required at that time if they have backup water, and there were wells drilled in the 60th and Avenue H for backup water, and we say we're the supplemental supplier, but I don't know if anything ever happened, if that's going to be the case or not. There's a problem with AVAC's water supply, and it would be nice to have a letter from the county that they realize we're a supplemental supplier, not the primary supplier. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I can have a conversation with the county and see what their planning documents show as to how they're going to support that project. And because they're the retailer, they have to submit the can and will serve letter for the development. So it'd be interesting to see what they show in that. And I'm sure they have some requirements that they've set on the developer for additional groundwater extraction as well.
We should be part of that, should we not?
My preference or recommendation is that we keep it the way it is and not get drug into any special agreements on supplying water for new development. It's pretty clear now, AVAC is a wholesaler, we're supplemental, interruptible, and I think we keep it at that.
Keith, you remember those negotiations years ago with Ritter Ranch?
Yes, I do. And it was a long time ago, but I do remember some of the meetings we had, and a lot of difficult concepts had to be overcome. But I agree with Matt.
Yeah, we might be painting ourselves into a corner eventually.
Yes.
Find the water, and if we know there's not backup, and I don't know if we know that or not, the county would have to relate that information to us.
Yeah, but that's on them as the retailer. My fear is we start being part of a special agreement with them, then we do get pulled into it. Right now we're
I'm not talking about a special agreement, just if they had the water to serve them if AVAC could not.
Yeah. Again, that's on them as the retailer.
Well, not really. It's supposed to be, but what happens if we don't have the water? They're going to look to AVAC. As people in the county, they're going to change fast, and
yeah.
And before the board did look at it, and we thought the county needed to have a backup supply, and that's why wells were being drilled.
Yeah.
So what was done years ago was not being done now.
Well, it could be being done within Waterworks. They could be working with the developer on building additional recovery or groundwater pumping capacity.
But I doubt it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Question regarding that?
Dr. Miller.
In my thinking process, can we ask LA County Waterworks if they see they would need additional water from us at some point with future developments happening?
Yeah, so part of the reason for the construction of this new turnout on 25th Street is to purchase additional supplies from AVEC. Yeah, on a regular basis.
We don't know what volume or capacity.
I mean, we've seen some documentation. I can't remember. It phases in over time. Yeah.
It's still to be determined.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, yeah, thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
That'll move to item number 11, director's reports. If anybody has anything they'd like to share with the board or?
No report.
Okay, that'll bring us down to number 12, attorney reports. And in one item, we have discussion of AB 1234 ethics compliance for the directors. And I don't know what else the attorney may have, but Matt, we'll just turn that over to you.
Yeah, Jim Markman's on the phone and he's prepared to talk about this item.
Yeah, Jim, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Jordy. In discussion with a couple of board members about the every 2-hour training required for the elected officials as well as other staffers under the government code, this is supposed to be an ethics training session. And I actually did one years ago when I first came to work with AVEC. That involved, first of all, it's part of our, it wouldn't be an extra charge, it'd be part of the retainer. And it's a little different. I approach it a little bit more anecdotally. I don't like reading a lot of code sections at clients or at staff members because they don't remember them, and try to bring to light how difficult some of these provisions can be to comply with. And mostly my goal is if you get confused about it, don't try to outsmart the system. And I have 5 or 6 examples of usually city councilmen, but elected officials who've tried to do that and what became of them, which wasn't good. So we were just talking, I was talking about that with directors, with Director Paris particularly, and thought if this was coming up, maybe it would be something that the board would be interested in having happen. Nobody has to attend, but if you made the attendance also open to other elected officials or staffers in the Antelope Valley, as was done before, we might be able to do 10, 15, 25 people at the same time in kind of a different way than what you're used to. So that's what we talked about. We'd be happy to do it. It's up to the board if you'd like to see that happen.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Mr. President.
Yeah,
this was my recommendation. I think, I've taken the online courses, I've taken the aqua courses. They're good, but they're not specific towards AVEC or what we do and our community. So when we were having this discussion with Jim and he said it is part of his retainer, he has done the training. He is the attorney that if any of us have questions about things that we're concerned about ethically, that we would ask questions of. So it made sense that ask him if he would schedule one, but obviously want the board approval. It would be voluntary, but I think if more than 3 of us came, Jim, would we have to do a special meeting for that, or is that just training and we don't have to do that?
No, you wouldn't have to do that.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we schedule a day and encourage, our board to attend and our staff to attend and just do it and have interaction between us with our attorney who we will be asking the questions to. So I just think it would be a good course and it doesn't cost a thing.
If the board's sure welcome to, if the majority of the board wants to do it, we'll schedule it.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Sure. No problem.
You want a motion to go ahead and schedule it? Do you want to get a consensus?
Let's get a consensus. Would the board like to see this? Maybe it's not the first way to do it.
Well, I can do a motion that we schedule one, or we can just get
Let's get a
consensus.
consensus first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it makes sense, but
You're,
I think I've already been through it. I wouldn't really have to redo it, or wasn't it something?
It would just be voluntary. If you've already done another one and you don't think it will help you, fine. But I'm just recommending we do it with our board and our staff, so that, we're together when we're doing it. Again, if you don't want to go, don't go. Let's just schedule one.
yeah, Director Dias?
I have no objection if it's voluntary.
Director Miller?
Yeah, I think having anecdotal, that's the way that Jim could present it in certain situations would be good, because it's pretty dry doing that ethics class online. And I know I relate better when situations are brought up that you can relate to. So yes, I would say that would be a good idea.
The first Friday motion be in order, that would be a voluntary.
Great. I move that we schedule a voluntary ethics training for our board and our staff at a time where the greatest number of us can attend.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
I like the second.
We have a motion and a second.
So I had one question. How long will it be? 2 hour session?
It's probably a 2-hour session, right, Jim?
Almost exactly 2 hours, so it comes very close, yes.
And you'll be able to hang out and answer.
I can hang out as long as you want, if you have questions on top of that. That's one advantage.
And I don't know if we can talk about later. That's the motion.
Okay.
May I ask a question too? Jim, would this satisfy people who've already taken it? Then they will be, won't have to take it again for 2 years from that.
Yes, and our firm is certified to give this training, so it covers, whoever takes it is good for 2 years.
Thank you.
Good question. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, if you have a roll call vote.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Jay Tremblay,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Some of these small cities down in LA a number of years ago, man, they did wild stuff, just dishonest, things, and I don't know how that happened, but you had the whole city, the whole council involved with it.
Yeah. Well, I promise that some people that you will be interested in how it really works and what happens, rather than technicalities about the code sections, and that's the way I do it. I do it a little differently.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Okay. We do have need to go into closed.
We do. It should be very brief.
I've heard that before. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Matt. Do we have a
Mr. President, I move we go in closed session.
And I second.
Dr. Miller, Madam Secretary?
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Jay Tremblay,
Yeah.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Mercy,
Yes.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried.
Okay, stand by.
Ollie,
Thanks, guys.
are you there?
Recording stopped.